Hello. Oh, it does. It says it's fine on the site. Like here, it's fine.
I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Here we go again. Here we go again. All right, welcome. We're here again, number 2, and it's been an interesting week, as usual. Balance and all that. We're trying to do this as well as work jobs at the moment, so that's that's fun. So we didn't get as much done as we would have liked to get done, and so that's how we're coming into this stream.
Which will be a running trend. I don't know any point in my life where that has not been the case. Every week is a week I wanted to get more done.
Yeah, if double the time, let's halve the hours, except make them the full length of hours, and make them double.
Huh?
I'm just making shit up at this point. We're gonna try and start locking in the structure of these streams, kind of a bit closer to what we envisioned, and we'll try that. We'll try a different format this week, just slightly different.
I think we'll always be trying different formats.
There's a truck going past. We're not in a soundproof studio here. Our soundproof studio is elsewhere. This is a big warehouse, so that's why it's going to be loud in here sometimes, but hopefully not too loud.
I like it.
You like it?
Feels homely.
Homely. If only they knew. So we'll generally start off with a check-in and go into the weekly wrap, which is kind of like a what we did this week scenario with kind of like a reflection on that, like we felt like we didn't get enough done, blah 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 blah. Maybe celebrate some of our wins.
There we go. Reflection done. Just quick rating out of 10.
Yeah.
6.
And because we're still in pre-release at this point, or pre-launch, I should say, not pre-release, we don't have any real metrics to talk about, though we'll talk about our emotional metrics, which is, I think, what we talked about last week a little bit. Our industry and culture chat is going to be focused around Pearl Jam and their recent album. And then we'll jump into the big discussion, which I think kind of, for me this week, it's going to be not for me. What we're going to talk about this week is kind of goal setting, accountability, proficiency, procrastination, and balance. These are kind of all things around what we're dealing with in this project at the moment, and particularly we'll get into that, but particularly around these ideas of getting stuff done quickly, I think is certainly what we're talking about. Yeah. Is the main kind of subject there.
I just wanted to add one more thing while we're talking about structure here, which is that I think there's a temptation when we're doing these streams to want to set it up like it's like a TV show or something like that, which is not really the intention, right? Like, as far as I'm concerned, the intention of these streams is that these are conversations that if you're a band, you need to be having anyway, right? Yeah. And so this is a way to make us have those conversations, essentially.
Yeah. And be accountable to them because they're, recorded.
Well, that's right, yeah. So, it's there's a little bit of a, if it's boring and a bit shit, well, too bad.
Yeah, I mean,
about it.
Yeah, well, we had some feedback from one of our friends who watched, two of our friends who watched the stream.
Which is good feedback, but I think we need to temper that, because the moment this becomes like, oh, we need to put 4 hours of prep in to make it a show, well, then that's when it's going to fall on its butt, because we don't have 4 hours to spend. Yeah,
and I think the initial intention of the way that we've set up Frights is that we're doing kind of these big packages that are kind of everything. They're for the super fans who want every aspect of what we're doing. And then we, as time goes on, we'll cut these down to smaller and smaller, more concise packages.
Yeah, that's right. Which is kind of, it's a weird little funnel, because in some ways we've got to produce kind of that, we've got to capture that content so that we can slice it down, which will then be the kind of acquisition stuff for later. So it's this real weird cyclical thing where we're starting at a point in the cycle that's kind of the wrong part if the goal was purely just let's acquire audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where we're starting.
No, I mean, obviously we will be thinking about audience as we go through because that's one of our, demonstration pieces as part of what we're doing.
Yeah, but that's also, this is completely consistent with how a lot of bands operate anyway. Like, they make the music before there's a fan base there.
Yeah.
That's the natural part of it. We're just going beyond that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I mean, like, the other part of what we're talking about is meta-narrative and how all this other stuff that you do around the music is important to the music's success in the industry. Or
even just its creative success.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
Yeah.
For it to be fulfilling within you, it's all. If you're just throwing stuff against the wall, then it's not going to necessarily achieve those goals because you haven't figured out what they are. You might get some by scattershot, but you're not gonna nail them.
No, so I think these are things that we're trying to kind of bring to light in our own practice as well as in other people's practices as we go through this process and making it as transparent as possible.
Sorry, I feel like I derailed this massively.
No, it's fine.
Let's continue.
No, well, I mean, it kind of feeds into the big discussion that we're going to have a chat about later. And that's kind of part of the check-in. Part of the check-in is having these conversations. So let me start the check-in. How did you feel about our progress?
Yeah, I mean, there's my immediate to-do list has about 600,000 items on it, and I did one, I think.
Let's have a look at that.
So, let's not.
Yeah. Well, you did more than me. Oh, let's see. Actually, hold on. Well, I mean, I've started a lot of these. That's the thing. Like, some of them require a bit of thought and.
Yeah, they're not always
straight away.
You can tick off in like an hour.
In an hour, yeah. And some of these things, like the streaming schedule and how we're intending to stream, will be something that we do on this weekly stream thing.
Yeah. It also at the moment Matt's involvement's like lower than we would like for reasons outside anyone's control. So
yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah, so it's hard to get like commitment to a schedule when 1/3 of the people who need to commit aren't there.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, it's good. We the fact that we're here, I feel really great about that. That like, hey, it's week 2. We're doing stream 2. We haven't already.
And to be fair, we were going to do another capture thing today originally that we've decided to kind of push to tomorrow because it does require a bit more thought, and rather than just kind of like shoot ourselves in the foot, we need to reflect on the last time we did that little music thing, which we'll get to.
Well,
yeah.
How instead of saying we'll get to it, let's just get.
Oh well, that would be
because that's part of this, right? We tried to do a little like an impromptu little cover song yesterday.
Yes.
As part of just what it is to rehearse and what it is to figure out how we make music together, because this is a new venture. Mm-hmm. We don't know what that looks like.
And me and Simon have never made music together.
No. Well, one of us has never made music.
I don't know about that. I tend to agree with Sam on that particular front. In that everyone
thinks I'm some like
genius musician.
Yeah,
he writes good lyrics.
I'm just hiding my skills. But when we talk about fulfillment, like making music is not fundamentally fulfilling for me. Even
hot take.
even if I am, let's pretend that I'm some kind of savant. Mm-hmm. An idiot savant even. That one I'm definitely
an ignorant savant.
But it's just even if I could punch out, Max Martin tunes every day of the week,
you probably wouldn't do that.
Well, it's just not something. I know that it's not something that's fulfilling to me.
But the word component is fulfilling to you, right? Like you like putting words together.
Yeah, no.
You do it a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, the same goes for writing. Like I'm never going to write a novel because it's not something that is.
You won't write a novel, but you'll write a thesis.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I would much rather go and do a PhD or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not the writing part that's fulfilling to me.
It's the research.
It's the research. It's the understanding. It's the communication of that understanding. Mm-hmm. It's the collaborative aspects of it, of bouncing ideas around, and those parts of making music are fulfilling to me. The those collaborative parts, the being in the milieu of people who are making stuff.
Milieu. It's a nice word.
Milieu and mil me.
Careful.
Mil us.
Mill us. Millhouse.
Anyway, that's the stuff that's fulfilling to me, is the like the social conviviality part of it. Like we're all getting amped up on the stuff.
Yeah.
The actual, like, I am in my I'm hitting the shed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, not fulfilling to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, I come and go from that, because there'll be some days when we're just specifically talking about hitting the shed, because like music for me has always been a challenge, you know, and I think that's why I keep coming back to it for me, because they're like technically, and like a lot of technical kind of processes are like second nature to me. They just kind of make sense, and I can do them, and they're like riding a bike, so easy and just boring, in other words. And music has always been this elusive thing that it always kind of, well, it eludes me as I, you know, it's been an elusive thing for me the whole time. And I think part of it has been practice, you know, these feelings of not being necessarily really good at what I do, even though when I do play some like stuff for people, there's really positive reactions. Like that internal kind of dialogue is not a positive one necessarily around my own music rating. So that's a problem. And then there's also kind of trauma crap from when I did start learning music and where I came from musically that certainly hangs around, you know, stuff that I work on. But it you know, once you kind of have it locked in there, it's pretty hard to unlearn that kind of adolescent experience, you know.
Welcome to Therapy with Josh.
I get enough. This I mean, this, to be fair, is probably therapeutic in that respect, because we are unpacking some of these ideas later on, because I think a lot of my procrastination comes from those places, you know. Not so much fears, but like those early habits, you know. And so when I keep coming back to music and coming back to music practice and hitting the shed, there'll be times when I can hit the shed hard and really feel like I've achieved stuff, but that's like less than 50% of the time. It's probably closer to 30% of the time where I feel like I've achieved something. The other times it's like pulling teeth. Like particularly if it's in inverted commas practice based, if we're talking about practicing an instrument, like that is no fun, you know. That is like something that I have to force myself to do. Yeah. But it's
learning your times tables or something.
Yeah. But like finding for that kind of stuff, when it comes to technical musicality, like, or musicianship, I should say, on an instrument, finding stuff that I connect with musically is obviously the thing that gets me over the line. Like if I'm just I don't ever do this. I never play scales. I never go through kind of cycles of chords or things like that. But exercises where I pick two chords that are distant from each other harmonically and try and join them together, that's interesting to me. Or these kind of really cool, like say you take a lick or you learn a lick from some famous song and then you just transition that through all the keys to learn the shapes. Because it's all about shapes when it comes to technical musicianship. Well, you know, I would argue it is. Anyway, so I mean, when it comes to hitting the shed, I have mixed feelings for sure, you know. But I think I do it for the same reason as you, in that it's about the camaraderie and the collaboration for sure, and the fact that I want to write good songs. Like I think there's a deep desire in me to write songs that resonate with me, and like digging into my own personal definition for success, like resonate with other people. Like I want to be able to write stuff that when someone hears it, they connect and they feel, and the emotions are kind of stirred in them, you know. So those are the things that keep me coming back to it, you know. And this week has just been a mix of that for me as well, because the thing that we were talking about, one of the when we went in to do a cover. So the kind of one of our other kind of I'll dress these people. One of the other things that we're doing as part of our content that we're looking to make is a cover every week or two. It's part of our release strategy for each song, which we haven't really talked about on the stream yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still extremely abstract.
Yeah.
It's basically
We're building it as we go.
hey, guess what? We will release stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shock horror.
Oh my God.
And we have a rough idea that it's going to be on an 8-week cycle.
Yep.
But as for what happens within those 8 weeks, it's very, very abstract.
Yep.
We have some thoughts about artwork, a cover,
remixes,
like remixes, where it fits into. Is there a larger cycle, like a 32-week cycle of like EP releasing?
Mm-hmm. I thought
does it have to be faster than that? Does it have to be more like a 24-week cycle? Even then, that means 2 EPs a year? That's not fast enough.
No, I liked that original idea we talked about, which was like because one of the kind of intentions which is lying on that whiteboard over there was this 8-week cycle. So like, I mean, I'm a big kind of fan of like my favorite artists releasing stuff, like singles over time. Like for me, that's not true entirely. Like I really like a good concept album too, but I really like this like constant engagement thing that happens at the start of like an album cycle of a record label artist. Like Jacob Collier for me, and the way that he kind of puts out these songs ahead of the record release, not really announcing the record release, but you kind of know it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Building this anticipation is really engaging to me. It's not so much for the record because I still haven't listened to the latest one. But the way that he brings out songs regularly kind of keeps me coming back to the reason that I like what he does. And so this kind of short cyclic thing that we've been talking about is really compelling to me. So you get this new song every 8 weeks. That's the kind of core product. And then you have all these other products that float around it. And for me, that idea of these covers and these remixes, that kind of ends up being the EP. Mm-hmm. It's not an EP of original content so much as it is an EP of the original piece and derivatives.
Yeah, but that's more like what a single would have traditionally been. When you think about the CD age, a single was, or even the vinyl record version of a single, where it's the track,
mm-hmm.
and then let's stick with CDs, but you'd have the track, you'd have maybe 2 remixes or like radio edit remix.
Yep.
And then a B-side.
I always found the radio edit thing kind of, I mean, it makes sense, but like it was annoying on the singles because you'd have the original or the radio edit and then the original or the long play version.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have the remixes, and they all seemed to start the same, which annoyed the shit out of me.
You know what I listened to the other day and was absolutely shocked by?
Yeah.
Was Tub Thumpin' by Chumbawamba. I'd only ever heard the radio edit, I realized. It has this whole different intro.
Yeah.
It has this whole intro that I'd never heard, despite that song being absolutely everywhere. I highly recommend you go listen to Tub Thumpin'.
Tub Thumpin'.
I
probably have heard it.
Chumbawamba. But of course, the streaming numbers, what's been streamed is not the radio edit. Like the radio edit has small streaming numbers compared to the
long play version.
To the well, that's right. And yeah, as someone who never had the pleasure of owning the single or the album version of Chumbawamba's magnum opus, whatever it's called.
What?
I don't know what the album's called, but yeah. Anyway, Tub Thumpin'.
I mean, it's a very Chumbawamba name. A band with the name Chumbawamba and then having a song called Tub Thumping is very much up along the same thread as far as I'm concerned.
I started going on this amazing deep dive on the weekend because on SBS there's a 3-part documentary miniseries on Ace of Base, which is fantastic. It's so worth a watch. But yeah, anyway, I went on a real late 90s, early 2000s rabbit hole, and it was a good one.
Good.
Anyway,
that's good. I've gone back to, if we're talking about watching stuff, I've gone back to watching anime again. So.
Oh my god.
I like Ghost in the Shell.
What have you been watching?
Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, Ghost in the Shell.
The standalone complex series. which is early 2000s.
With the Laughing Man.
The Laughing Man, yeah. I mean, Laughing Man comes in and out, but there's a standalone Laughing Man film, which is post the original film. There's a lot of Ghost in the Shell shit.
What are the names of the little spider things that are only in the standalone complex, but not in the?
Oh yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
In the original film.
I mean, in the original film, it's a spider tank, but they're kind of like mini versions of the spider tank.
Yeah, but that have been given personalities and stuff.
Yeah, they're AI robots. They've got brains in them and shit. Yeah.
I don't know. Takoyaki or whatever they're called.
Oh yeah, not takoyaki. That's octopus.
That's octopus
balls. Yeah,
but it's something
like that.
It has a T in it. It starts with a T.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they're cool. But like the music from that is really interesting. I really like the music. If we're going to kind of bring this back to some reasonable discussion around music, the soundtrack to the original film and this TV series is very interesting. Like it's
what makes I don't remember the soundtrack.
I mean, it's kind of all really really incidental music. Like it's like. You would kind of consider it to be like library music, I would expect, because I don't think they would have paid necessarily a composer to write it all. But I don't know, it just makes sense, like to me anyway. There's some kind of like higher action stuff which is beaty and kind of like driven and momentum-y, and then there's this kind of because it is very technically unseen world stuff, so there's a lot of abstract-y kind of ambient shit that happens around it too. So you kind of have these bits and pieces where...
So we're talking 2000s ambient electronica.
Yeah.
Aphex Twin.
Yeah, not that crazy though. Like more ambient, like more chill, or like upbeat maybe, and not as harsh. Like Aphex Twin always has this harsh edge, and I think Aphex Twin would work, or Oneotrix Point Never, if that's how you say that. I have no idea because I've heard it said like 1,000 different ways. But the harshness of those two artists' material would work with particularly the original film, which is very dark and deals with some very complex like cyber ideas, which funnily enough are kind of the ideas that we're dealing with now in the computer age, more so than we were back then. Like these were just sci-fi back then, but they're not sci-fi anymore with the AGI revolution happening as we speak, and chips that are petaflops and insanity like that. Anyway, that's enough about that. That like the rare time that I get to watch something, that's what I've been watching. Yeah. And listening to various musical things.
Yeah. Josh is a weeboo.
A weeboo.
Yeah, isn't that is that the right word? I don't know.
What's a weeboo?
Like someone.
Should I know that?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. As someone who
weeboo. What does weeboo stand for?
I've got no idea.
Internet slang for someone. Hold on, the internet's going to tell me. Where's the answer?
Yeah,
obsessed with Japanese culture. That's what it is.
There we go.
I'm not obsessed with Japanese culture. I'm definitely not that. I like components of Japanese culture.
He says as he drinks his green tea and watches his anime and eats with his chopsticks all the time.
Yeah, I don't throw out old, like I like old things. I like getting other people's old things. That's a very non-cultural thing as far as I understand it over there. They throw everything out.
Which is the hot tip on how you get cheap.
Shh! Don't tell anyone. We're keeping that one to ourselves.
That's not how you get cheap musical instruments.
Shut up. It's fun. So the musical practice stuff, that's where we're at. So we went over it, and because we haven't really written together much, like at all. Like this is where Matt kind of fits into the picture. Invisible Matt right here, invisible blonde Adonis Matt. He, me and him have been writing together for quite a long time, so we have a good practice. But we've only kind of engaged with theoretical ideas and business kind of actions. So creative practice for us in the past has been kind of like my practice, not versus your practice, but
Versus is probably pretty
It's probably
accurate.
accurate,
term.
yeah. Versus your practice where, like, you might be the main kind of artistic vision behind, practitioner around something, and maybe the vision comes from me, and then vice versa. You know, like musical vision comes from you, and then I practice it together. Like that weird happy birthday thing we did the other day. Where, you know, you kind of fulfill this kind of producery role sitting at the back and meditating on the idea or whatever, which is total bullshit. You don't really do that, but you know what I mean? Like, providing feedback from the back seat, but in a good way, you know.
Like a directorial kind of.
I was trying to get there somewhere useful. Leave me alone.
I direct the process.
Correct. Whereas, like, you know, like what we tried to do earlier in the week was actually write together, and that was kind of, I think we can safely say that we flopped.
Oh, it was a failure, massive failure.
Yeah.
Moderate failure.
Moderate failure. I don't think it was massive because we didn't walk away with negative emotions necessarily about it. We just felt, that was kind of.
But it's,
shit.
I mean, the building of proficiency is such a weird and non-linear discipline as well.
Yeah. Big words there, bud.
What?
Non-linear. That's a big word.
It's two small words with a hyphen in between. You're fine. But anyway,
language is not much. Actually.
But it's yeah. I mean, it's not something that is that, you know, that if you're just throwing yourself into it, it's hard to design it without having any points of reference. You know, people obviously can design education programs to build efficiency and proficiency, but and efficacy, if you want to throw in more words, but that's not where we're at. You know, we're kind of in the weeds figuring it out on like an interpersonal level. And so we're gonna fall flat on our faces loads of times. But that's kind of, if you can find the way to make that fun, then it becomes a really compelling thing to do. And I think that's the space we're in. Like, it would be,
we have done that though in other parts of the practice.
yeah. So we know we can do it here too. But it's you know, it's also, we're walking this funny line of like, oh, we want to show our working and things, but then at the same time, it's like, if we were to show what we did the other day, it's horrible. Like drawing with crayons or something.
Drawing with crayons and no hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, exactly. It's
slowly.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very embarrassing. You know, like, I think, but I this goes into the conversation that we've been having around, like, kind of stepping away from your practice for a period of time. Like, you've talked about it in relation to your graphic work, like graphic design stuff or web design or whatever, that practice of yours. And in my case,
whatever the fuck you do.
I don't mean to be dismissive, but for me, the musical kind of practice which I built up over COVID kind of disappeared when I started the business that we've been doing for the last 2 years.
Yeah. So we're pig-headedly throwing ourselves back into those
practices.
Yeah. Which are
and I mean, it's compounding. Like, it's very much compounding. The proficiency compounds because as you practice more, you build on more, and you're building more and more on those base layers. You know. But I think, like, you know, for me, like, my musicianship and whatever is fine. It's more kind of putting the pieces together that I've lost proficiency in. Even though I can pull stuff apart just fine and play around with those pieces, it's like putting stuff together from you know, it's classic, like, empty page crap. You know, it's that first, you know, 20% or whatever that's finding the nugget, like finding the seed, and then or building, you know, intentionally moving towards the seed. You know,
the carte blanche.
The carte blanche.
Tabula rasa.
Yeah, see? I don't know what that second word is.
It's all the same shit.
Yeah. So, like, just to kind of, like, frame up what we did, like, the intention behind, so it was a cover. The intention was to do a cover and something that's culturally relevant at the moment. We won't talk about what the cover was because we might come back to it. But the intention is to do a cover that's culturally relevant for what we're talking about now. And just like with all the content that we're producing at the moment, it's intended to be quick. It's intended to be intentional. And like we intend to stream it to people live and then cut bits and pieces out of it as we feel like as we like. And it was, we had those goals going in. Oh, and there's a time limit on it. So like we intentionally try and fit it into roughly 2 hours. Because one of the concepts we're playing with is that, it's problematic to just spend all this time on one thing, like 3 weeks on one song, when you need to kind of engage with an audience like the way that we're talking about. So we kind of are doing that with our kind of core piece. We're spending a bit more time on it and spreading out the thought processes around it, so that there's these times for reflection and interactions with bigger ideas and things like that, right? And logistic issues like getting musicians in and things like that. The covers and even the remixes are meant to be designed. They're designed to be quick and intentional, but also spontaneous, and get them across the line. And they be good enough is the kind of, I guess, the overarching idea.
Yeah, I mean, if our kind of overarching, reason for doing this is to be having fun, building that like never-ending sleepover vibe.
Yep.
Ideas like jankiness play into this. Yep. Ideas like it's supposed to capture those things. It's not supposed to be some musically perfect, sanitary, brilliant thing. It's supposed to bring people along into the fun, celebrate the place that we exist in culture, that there's this cool stuff coming out, and we want to accentuate and engage with that cool stuff that's coming out, play along in a literal sense, and feel that never-ending sleepover vibe, while we happen to be able to use it to have the algorithm look at us and to build up audience out of it. Like it just happens to be this efficient thing from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
But it also achieves those larger goals with what we're trying to do conceptually.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think that's important, because like one of the things that we're trying to highlight with the audience and with other artists is this need to think about the whole process even at the start. Like, it doesn't necessarily get in the way of creativity unless you let it, and we will talk about that at some point in the future. But it is a big component of the process of having a sustainable career, is thinking about these things and engaging with all of the parts of the process if you're an independent artist. If you're not an independent artist and you're signed to a label, then the label does a lot of this stuff for you. But let's not pretend that the labels are signing musicians anymore, because they're not. And they are signing like cultural icons effectively,
Yeah, and there's such a pay-to-play component to it as well.
With record labels or with just in general?
In general. So one of the podcasts that I listen to all the time is the BBC Six Introducing podcast, which is just an incredible podcast, hosted by this guy named Tom Robinson, who is this, part of the kind of old guard of musicians. Used to play with Bowie, this sort of thing. Bit of a living legend in the UK music scene, and he talks about how normal it is now for radio stations, like the commercial stations, to effectively be like, they're not only are they ad networks with their advertising, they're effectively ad networks with music placement too. You pay to have your stuff played on the radio. Which, the word payola comes from this. This is back in the, I think, 50s in the US. This was something that was emerging and became this big, heated like kind of controversy in the industry of what it would mean culturally for radio to be something that you bought your way into for music. And of course, then all these laws, and it was all rebuffed and whatever. But all that stuff's died down now. You know, we're 70 years down the track, 60 years down the track from that, and now it's slowly become just normalized.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically how it works. Even with these stations that kind of say that they're, you know, they're for the kind of music first and they're not commercial.
Yeah.
There's still a buy-in. There's just no money exchanged. You know, we can talk about that in relation to public, not naming any specific stations, but there is absolutely a buy-in component or a transactional component with public broadcasters that are not meant to have these biases. You know, where they are taking meetings with record labels on a regular basis and engaging with those commercial endeavors. So and the transaction is often content for reach. That's the kind of trade-off, Whereas with a commercial station, it's usually paying for reach. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the artist or the record label pays to have access to the station's reach, the audience's reach. Whereas with a public station, you've got, or a non-profit station or whatever you want to call them, government station. It's not that. It's you are the record label effectively gives their artists content as a means of getting in the reach.
Yeah.
Which say what you will, but I mean you kind of have to interact with the industry even if you are meant to be non-biased like that. Where do you get producers still need to produce programs? They still need to build playlists. They still need to if that's their job.
Yeah. But what it means for an artist who, if you're, just someone who doesn't...
Independent person.
Yeah, who doesn't have a massive war chest of cash to throw at a project.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand that to get signed, to get industry clout, to get, eyeballs on you, what you need to do is establish yourself as someone with a lot of reach. It leaves you with very limited options of what to do.
Yeah. And I mean, this is why we're talking about social media, and the way that we're producing what we're producing is kind of demonstrating a way of doing it without necessarily having that revenue to begin with.
Or attempting to. There's every possibility that we just fall completely flat on our faces.
Yeah. Nothing's guaranteed in life. But I'll be more unhappy if I didn't try and do this than not. Plus, it's fun. So what's the problem?
Plus, it's fun. You get to spend time with your pals.
Yeah.
Keeps your hands busy.
He's not my pal.
Keeps you off the street. Out of trouble.
I don't know if it keeps me out of trouble.
How do you define trouble?
Exactly. How do you define trouble? Yeah.
Financial trouble. Oh, it gives you in trouble.
Yes. So kind of circling all the way back to the musical practice. So that was one of the the kind of weekly wrap. That was one of the big kind of things that we did this week, along with continuing to plan our ongoing assets that we need, because as we're kind of living in this pre-launch thing, we're still developing assets, including Splash, like all these kind of technical components that we want. One of the things that held us back with the cover idea this week is that it's meant to be a live stream. It's part of that product, and even if it is a stitch up, people get to see us fail, and that's part of it. I think it would be nice to see more of that, less of this kind of editorial crap happening in people's social media or whatever, so you can actually see how hard it can be to kind of build something like this. Because I think there's this, we talked about this last week, there's this perception that it's just you do the thing and then it's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all your favorite musicians spend hours and hours just eating shit.
Yeah. Eating shit. Yeah.
It's garbage right up until the moment that it's suddenly not garbage anymore.
Yeah, until that the inverted commas inspiration strikes, so you find the seed or whatever you want to call it. And I kind of want to demonstrate and show people that, because it's, I've had bits of inspiration. You've had bits of inspiration that have really
Nah.
not in music.
Nah.
No,
I don't believe in inspiration.
no, you don't.
Well, yeah, no.
Mood,
No. No. What's mood got to do with it?
exactly.
But for me, it's all. I mean, I find it very difficult to not view the whole thing as design.
Because you're a designer.
Exactly. Like I'm aware that I see the world through a very limited lens, as we all do.
Yes.
But for me, it's all design.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're trying different things until the moment that your brain, in the soup of your brain, the things connect together. Just like this morning, I was telling Josh just this morning that there was a woodworking thing that I was working with literally 2 years ago, and I couldn't figure out how to do this particular thing. And out of nowhere this morning, it just hit me like a bolt out of the blue. Like, oh, that's how I should have done that thing 2 years ago that now is completely inconsequential and I have no way of completing. But I know how to do it now.
It took 2 years for you to figure it out.
Exactly, but you could call it inspiration if you want.
No, I find that stuff to be just like this weird calculation that happens.
Yeah,
in the back
but
of your
that's all any of it is, as far as I'm concerned. That it's just a you have all the raw material to synthesize a new thing.
Yeah.
And when that synthesis happens is down, like, you've got your electric meat in your head, and it's gonna pop it out at some point.
Electric meat in your head.
That's all we've got to go with.
Yeah.
The word for it being inspiration, as if it's something that comes down from out of nowhere. I think I've got no room for that.
Yeah, no, I like that. I tend to agree with that too, because one of the ways that I kind of unwrap problems is very similar, where I'll kind of engage with the problem and then I'll step back and I might go and do something else for a couple of weeks, depending on what it is. And as that process in my head kind of does its thing,
percolates.
I come back to it, and then it suddenly makes sense.
That's how I used to do all my design assignments in uni. Is I'd read the thing, I'd read through the assignment, the outline every day.
Yep.
I'd sit there and I'd read it, and I wouldn't engage with it purposefully. I wouldn't actually do any work on it. And I used to do that, and on day 4, 5, 6, something like that, I'd wake up at like 4 a.m, and then I'd go do it, and it would pour out of me. The whole thing would just go blah, 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 and I'd only have to try 3 or 4 things before it was hitting the mark. And everyone has these, as long as you're engaging, these things emerge. People talk about like, I'd read the outline, and then I'd look at stuff online, and then I'd go have a shower, and then in the shower, out it emerges, and I'd be drawing on the shower screen. Or, the only way that doesn't work is, I left it to the last minute, and then I was in this big hurry on the day it was due to punch out, 6 different things. That's kind of the only way that doesn't seem to work, because it's the lack of giving yourself the thing to percolate on.
Yeah.
But inspiration, it's got nothing to do with it.
No, and I think going back to what we were talking about, this is kind of why we're going to keep.
That's right. This is the reading of the outline.
Well, and beating our head against the wall every time we go back and do it again. So
we're going to suck. We know we suck.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to until we don't.
But the reason we got into this conversation was because I was going to talk about the technical component. When you have, and procrastination, because I think we've kind of slipped into our main discussion stuff this week, which is totally fine because it's all connected, because these are the things that we've been thinking about this week. One of the realizations I had last week, which is connected to the failure earlier in the week around the cover, was how long it took us to get this part of our content offering up. You know, we kind of said, oh, we'll do it this week, and then life got in the way a bit for me, and stuff got in the way for you. But when we kind of managed to kind of sit down and keep working on it, we kind of said, oh, today we'll do it, and then we'd get to the time in the day that we were going to do it, and we go, oh, we can't do it today, we're not ready, and we'd move it to tomorrow. And we did that a couple of times before we were like, we kind of have to do this, like we're fuck-assing around, you know. And we wrote a little sign and put it on the table, and then the next day we did it, because we're not going to, like, you know, and we were using technical issues or technical design of the system as a
reason not to do things.
As a reason not to do things.
Everything's not perfect.
Yeah, and that happened on Monday when we did this, you know, this cover thing. I'd been thinking about, because we don't want to move this setup into the studio, we want to be able to kind of be a bit more agile with that setup, because it's going to be used for a couple of different content pieces.
Yeah.
So coming up with a different way of doing it was kind of part of the scope of that product.
Yeah.
And I'd spend a bit of time thinking about it and trying to do it with the equipment that we had. And that morning went through a few different options of how we could do it, and none of them worked, or none of them worked to a level that I was kind of happy with. Like, ultimately what it came down to is the only thing that we had in our possession at the time, without spending any more money, was a 720p webcam that had a really narrow field of view, which, I mean, if you've got nothing else, would have totally worked and would have been fine. But I think, you know, using it as an excuse to not get started was certainly getting in the way of using up energy that could have been used during the process. You know that.
Yeah, I'm very much more of the opinion that you just need to get in there and get stuff done. Because like even this as an example, right? Like we've put together this setup.
Yep.
And there's always going to be one more thing we can do, but we haven't even used half the stuff. Look, we've got different camera angles. We've got me. We've got Josh. Just crop into the thing. We haven't used them.
Yeah.
When are we going to use them?
We'll use them.
Will we?
Yeah, we will. That's why we use them.
Will we?
Yeah. And then you've got your pad. Don't forget your pad.
Yeah, but the point is that, you know, you can prematurely optimize until the cows come home. It's all it's going to do is prevent you from doing the thing.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like not analysis paralysis, but it's like option paralysis. Like, you know, like you're giving yourself.
It's kind of the opposite.
Scope creep. Scope creep.
Yeah,
maybe?
it's more in that vein,
Scope
but
creep.
it's kind of like the opposite of analysis paralysis. It's like you want more stuff. You're paralyzed because you don't have enough options.
Yeah, which we had. I mean, to be fair, we could have put this camera on, we could have ingested it, and then put the audio in, and it would have been passable.
Would have been fine.
We could have done it without this light. You know what I mean? And that was one of the things
But
that.
then how would I be so shiny?
Yeah.
We didn't have the.
Well, yeah. I mean, that for me was a big kind of component of getting this part of it up. Like on the other side, in the studio, it's not as much of a problem, because that's a bit more of a kind of BTS behind the scenes kind of thing, you know, where it is meant to be a bit janky, where it is meant to be a bit like, oh fuck, I can't see that thing that he's doing on the console or whatever, right? I'm trying to figure out that chord and I can't hear it and I can't see his fingers. That's fine, you know what I mean? It's meant to be like that over there. So I don't know what my point was here. No.
Your point was stop procrastinating.
Stop procrastinating.
Stop procrastinating. Are you procrastinating?
Me?
Anyone?
I
don't see anyone else here. There's certainly no one in the chat.
Ducky, are you procrastinating?
We have a dog off camera.
Yeah, he's
A little sausage dog.
he's sleeping, which is good because it's annoying when he's like psycho,
Yeah.
and we're trying to do this. I don't know where we were getting to with that particular point, but well,
Who can say? Who gives a fuck?
who can say? No, it was around just being prepared and letting the tech get in the way. So we needed some options over here that we don't need over there. Is basically what I was saying. But the bare minimum over there would have been just being able to capture the event, which is what we did. but because we kind of
But sadly, the event was garbage.
It was garbage.
So we chose not to put it up.
and uninteresting. It's not an interesting thing to watch us twiddle our thumbs and play with ideas that over 2 hours that was kind of like 5 ideas ultimately. It was pretty piss poor in that respect.
Yeah.
But
But again,
it's part of the process.
we don't know what we're doing.
Exactly. Well, yes. Building proficiency is the word of the day.
Building proficiency.
And I think like as a reflection on that, if our other band member Matt was around, that would have solved a few of those issues, because we were trying to work together. Me and him have already got a creative practice that you would have just slotted into, Simon, and it would have kind of rolled on a bit better, I think. And maybe it wouldn't, but my general thought is that would happen.
Instead what we got, we were like a 2-wheeled tricycle, and we just fell straight over because a 2-wheeled tricycle, not a thing. Not a thing that can work.
Don't you mean it? I reckon you should do like a two-legged stool. So a 3-leg stool can stand up. A 2-leg stool falls over.
Wow, there we go.
A 1-leg stool, totally fine.
Totally. Monopod.
Monopod. Depends on the base.
Depends on the base.
Yep.
Depends
Anyway, we're talking about individual skinny legs. Anyway, so that, I mean, that kind of brings us into the weekly wrap a bit of like brings us in. The other kind of things that we did this week were around producing additional assets for the stream. So we've been...
Which we haven't used.
Well, which we haven't used, but we've been playing with.
Yeah.
We've been playing with the idea. Like there was a nice little idea that was suggested by one of the viewers from last week, which is that we should produce some of the musical components and stingy kind of components around this particular broadcast during the broadcast as a kind of engagement thing. And for me, that freaks me the fuck out because I haven't performed for a long time. So that particular idea freaks me out. I've kind of pre-prepared something that I'm going to capture during,
which goes against the whole ethos of.
And when I say pre-prepared, I mean like I literally did it for 2 seconds before we hit stream. I got an idea of what I'd like to do for the intermission music. Yes, is where I'm at. But we've been producing assets around like a pre-stream thing, an intro, an intermission, because we realised, if we're going to stream for 2 hours, it's kind of important to take a short chill pill in the middle. And give viewers something to engage with while we're doing that. Toilet breaks and all that jazz.
Speaking of.
Oh, we're almost there. And because yeah, all right, whatever. You've derailed me. I hope you're happy.
Well, re-rail yourself.
Re-rail myself.
Go rail yourself.
Go rail myself. And balancing that stuff with our other work commitments at the moment. Has been kind of what we've been doing this week. And yeah, it's felt pretty good though. Like, have you felt generally positive about what's been happening, or have you?
Yeah, I felt generally positive. I mean, I think I'm in that kind of space where I'm almost like a little like coiled spring where I'm or a compressed spring. I mean, coiled spring kind of is redundant. Where.
Very redundant.
Where it's kind of, I feel a little bit, I don't know that anxious is necessarily the right word, but like apprehensive about all the stuff that's going on, all the unknowns that we've got to deal with. But at the same time, that is it's excitement adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that feels like it's incomplete because of things like, well, we haven't been able to get Matt in here yet. We're aware of all these kind of blank spots we've got around what it means to make music and kind of the proficiency gap or ability gap of being able to do that right now, as well as that same sort of gap that exists even with things like this, like just being comfortable talking on and knowing that there's a camera pointed at us.
Well, and even just looking in the camera, if that's what some of the intention is doing. We're not intending necessarily to do it because this is meant to be a discussion. But one of the kind of problems we identified around that is that we're always side on.
Yeah. Well, so. I don't necessarily mind that.
Profile.
Look at what I'm working with here, but Yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but and at the moment, all those options feel like they're available, and we're just kind of swimming in this sea of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And the process of narrowing that down can feel a little bit daunting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we know that there are options that will result in success within that, and there's options that will result in failure within that, and we just, at the moment, they all feel equal.
Yep.
We don't have a good barometer yet. And again, the only way you get there is with time and trying things and messing around. And so it's just, that feels big.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't necessarily know how to like...
Do you feel daunted by the fact that it's so big? Like, or are you... Oh. That's a lovely answer.
Wow. That came out of nowhere. I mean, yeah, definitely I feel daunted, but it's more exciting than it is daunting.
Do you feel like it affects your ability to engage with it? It being that big and that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, of course it does, because you can only eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? So
I do love that saying.
Yeah. But there's a lot of elephant, so of course it affects your ability to engage with it, because you can only get that one bite in.
Mm-hmm.
The more elephant, the more bites. And there's only so many hours in a day, so how
Yeah, but I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. But do you feel like you're less effective because the thing is so big and you're thinking about the bigger picture, even though you have this philosophy of one bite at a time? Like, does the fact that the elephant is so big in your vision kind of prevent you from taking as many bites as you'd like to take in a day? That's what I mean.
It's not so much about preventing you from... the metaphor's falling apart, but it's not so much about like being limited by how many bites you can take. It's just you sit there taking bite after bite, and then you look at it and you're like, no, that's still a whole elephant. You know, it's gonna... I know that it's going to take time, is all. But at the moment, it's still exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like, from my perspective, I certainly find it's sometimes difficult to engage with the problem, which is the whole project. Yeah, the problem, the elephant, because it is so big, and it does actually prevent me from engaging with it initially. You know, it does take a lot of energy to kind of fall into doing it. Even like planning what we're talking about today, like, I definitely procrastinated around that a little bit. Not as much as I thought I would, and the fact that we kind of sitting here at the time that we kind of got into it quite quickly today in the grand scheme of things.
See, we're also, like, I think it's really important. Part of what's helped me here is this acknowledging that, like, we have this incredible opportunity right now to fuck up with zero consequence. Like,
I'd hope that we'd have that problem, that leeway later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, right now, if it's bad taste, if it's crap content, if it's like if no one's watching, all that stuff
doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's right now. It's about we have this incredible luxury to be able to build habits, build practice, build all this stuff with zero consequence, and that's gonna shift over time. But that's what it does with every artist. Yeah. Even if you're only seeing them at a point in their career where it's like their debut album. Yeah. And people who are fans have this idea of like, I was a fan of this person from the start, from when they released their first album. And of course,
like when I subscribed to Mono Neon's YouTube channel when he had 100 followers.
Yeah, well, that's probably closer to the start than from where a lot of people would.
I mean, he was practicing before that, but he just didn't have a YouTube channel. You know.
Yeah, but you know, what we perceive as the start is often not the start.
Oh, it's not.
Actually the accumulation of like years of effort.
Totally.
And right now we are at the actual start, and we're doing something weird by like, you know, we haven't even told our friends about what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've alluded to it, and I've certainly told some people about it. But
yeah, but when you say some people, you're talking like five
people. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
we haven't gone broad spectrum on the socials and gone, we've been working on a thing.
Follow our new thing.
You should watch it.
Yeah. Like we're totally. This is
Pre-release.
Yeah.
Pre-launch.
Yeah.
Double pre.
Well, I don't know. How many pre's do you want to put in front of it? But you could... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
You don't have to dig far to find like successful products where they've had 6 or 7 launches.
Yeah.
We're launching our new product.
How many times did Twitter launch? Several.
I don't know.
Well, there's a book about it. It's amazing. You should read it.
Okay.
Hatching Twitter is an incredibly good book. And the same guy wrote the one about the Silk Road, the story of the Silk Road.
Cool.
Very interesting. But yeah, Hatching Twitter is like the Twitter story is very kind of, and you would argue that Twitter just kind of changed again recently with the Musk thing. You know, it's launched how many fucking times in its career? It was a podcast company. It was a podcast company again. Then it was like a weird kind of texting platform, and then it became Twitter. And then Elon Musk bought it and became whatever the fuck it is now. Multimedia payment platform future? I don't know.
Yeah.
AI?
It's an...
Gronk?
Grok.
Grok.
Is what it is.
Gronk. Yeah, Grok.
Gronk is something else.
Gronk is something else. Grok, yeah, and the humor mode and all that crap. Yeah. So...
Which is a great... Like, in terms of picking up a piece of slang to use for the name of an AI product, Grok, whoever named that, promote that person. That is ingenious. Are you familiar with the word grok?
Nah, I don't actually know where it comes from.
Oh, it's a piece of Silicon Valley slang that means to understand, essentially. So when you have that moment of like looking at a piece of code, for example, thinking, what the hell does this do? And then you understand, that moment of like switching on the understanding is grokking.
Mm-hmm.
You grok it. And so when you're talking about computers, you know, using AI and large language models to then understand how to communicate with humans, they are literally, it's like it's the reverse of grokking. So it's of all the names they could have called it, brilliant. Anyway,
very cool.
I think it's funny.
That's a bit of a cultural conversation piece right there.
It tickles me. Okay.
Yeah. So we're almost there. I think.
Let's switch over. Let's have a little intermission.
Yeah. Okay.
And
you want to have an intermission?
Yeah, I gotta pee.
There you go.
And then we will.
We'll come back and continue the conversation and talk about Pearl Jam.
Which we'll punch through it quickly. Anyway, so
I need to make something.
Hold on. Mission.
All right, Simon's done his little thing, and I'm going to do my little thing, and you can observe it. So because I don't have anything. I mean, obviously we have interfaces and recording equipment set up here. Are you just walking away?
Yeah, I'm walking away.
Can you put it back to put it back to me? Just put it back to me.
All right, hold on. Where am I? I've lost you.
There.
There we go.
All right.
Hey.
So I'm gonna do it dodgy, right? I'm gonna make a little intermission bit of music with this bad boy right here. This little Casio, whatever the hell it is, MT65 Casio tone. Look at that bad boy. Isn't it beautiful? And it's got batteries in it. And I don't have an interface hooked up to my computer right now, but I do have Ableton open. So I'm just going to turn this on and make the and effectively record just on my phone, and then I'm going to drop it into the computer. So all right, got a loop. I'm sure people would be very unhappy with the way that I'm doing this right now, and I don't care. Because this was what I thought about as we were starting the stream, how to do this. So you can hate me as much as you want. I can probably... I'm not going to worry about it today. Next time we do this, I'll have my computer plugged in so you can view me making this silly thing. I am going to have good... oh, look, Simon's back. I haven't finished making it yet.
Have you started making it?
Yeah, I've made my first recording.
Doesn't sound like he's even started.
I've made my first recording. I'm practicing good file management. and
there's a first.
Yeah, there's fuck.
See how far a little bit of accountability goes?
And oh look, it's even figured out my BPM. Isn't that lovely? So I'm gonna warp this and get it locked into my session. If I can hear it, which I can't. Oh, because my speakers are not turned up. There we go. That's definitely not the right speed. Let's figure out what that is, eh? It's probably roughly that. Let's do it on my phone. Very unengaging content right now.
It's all right. I've got him. I'm dancing.
145. All right, so that's what we're going to do. 145. And then I'm going to quickly warp this so that it fits. That's the first beat. And that's the somewhere, let's just say it's that beat. And we're going to warp it. To make it work. There it is there. That's the start. So I'm just going to unwarp that, unwarp that, unwarp that. No, that's warping it. Going to pull it up to there because that's the start of my loop. Sorry guys, this is not my ideal setup, but that's not what it's about, is it, Simon?
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Of course.
No, it's not about having an ideal setup.
No, it's not.
It's about showing how the sausage is made. And, you know, that often involves butchering it.
That does involve. Okay, that's it. That's one there.
He's just confirmed that he can count to 4. It's progress.
All right, bud. Calm down. Calm yourself. It's, you know what? I need to do this slightly differently. Slightly differently. Dun, 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 dun. 1. There it is there. That's the 1, which is what I had originally. So that's good. Dun, 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 and that's so that. And then it's really hard to see. Okay, cool. That is my end point there. And so that's my whole loop. If I'm not mistaken. Yep. See, this is what proficiency would bring if I was able to do this.
You'll count to 4 even faster.
I know.
Wow.
And I will consolidate that so that it can be cut. And then I'm going to turn warp off. There we go. So that I can adjust the, there we go. It's 142. That's a bit better. Then I'll do my warp on this consolidated clip.
What does warping do?
Kind of makes it fit to the grid, because that's what I want to do. Would you like to do yes to use the current timings? Yes. And we got the 1 there, and the kind of 1, the 4 here. What should we do? So if I turn this on. That seems to be working. Happy days. All right, now I can loopy for as long as our intermission is going to be.
Bloody sending me loopy.
Yeah, I would do that, wouldn't I? And then I'm going to record like another thing, but I'm going to put my headphones in. Where's those other headphones? You don't know?
These ones?
No, it's all right. I'll just do this. It's fine. Because I can't record and have the bloody beat going back in. Can I?
Don't know. Can
No. No, I can't.
Why?
I don't know, because it'll sound like shit. Oh, it's got like cool like cars in it and stuff.
Cars?
Oh no, this has run out of batteries. This is going to be fun. I'm just going to record one sequence of this and it should be fine. Let's not do that. Oh. That'll do it. That's my melody.
Is it going to have those gaps between it?
It's this. So I did it twice. The first one was a bit shit, so I did the second one. I'm going to drop that in, and hopefully that works. That's been airdropped. Now I'm going to have good file management. I've put it into the folder. I'm putting it in here.
Wow.
I know. Now I'll take that out so everyone can hear it again. Put that back in there so I can hear myself again. And we'll find out where this starts. I know it's very engaging, isn't it?
Wow.
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 All right, here we go. This is it. This is the start. There we go. And that literally is going to be all we're going to do. Hey, cutty cut. Put it in. There's the start.
My God.
What do you mean, my God?
It's just such a bare bones melody. Like
Fine. It works. What's the problem?
Why don't you, can you add some bass?
No, I'm not doing that.
Can I add some bass?
No. We can do that other weeks, but
Fuck you, I'm opening GarageBand.
okay. Wow. I'm going to just put a bit of silence at the end here. Consolidate that, and that's the end of our thing. How do you make this go? Crossfade. There we go. Consolidate, and there's our melody. And that's it. That's it. I've done the tune. How long do we want this to be? We can always come out of it at a weird time. So let's
Fair enough.
go. That'll work. All right, I have a song. I'm gonna export it. It's done.
Fuck me.
What? It's fine. Export audio.
At least we can take solace in the idea that this is the worst it will ever be.
This is not bad. What are you talking about? That's awesome.
He's taking the very like John Cage interpretation. Minimal is fine.
I don't think it's minimalist. Is it? All right, it's encoding because we're gonna have to put it up on here. So I'm gonna have to airdrop it, and you're gonna have to drag it in here.
Oh my God!
We've just got a lot of.
Even then, I don't think it's gonna. I don't know. I'll have to change some stuff in OBS to make that work. I think because it's not taking the system audio output into the stream, as far as I know. Maybe.
What do you mean? It's not taking the system audio.
No.
We're not going to play. No, we should be able to put it in. Go add a source and see if you can add a music thing.
Is that not literally what I just said? We're gonna have to mess with OBS settings.
I don't know. Well, let's find out. This is.
All right.
I'm gonna send you the song.
Building the plane as it falls.
I've got it working, so I'm going to send it to you. There's no. I've done nothing on this.
Okay, come on.
This is the problem with doing it this way. AirDrop.
You say problem. What I'm hearing is
There.
delightful.
There it is. There.
Blah, blah.
Digga.
Alright.
And then you want to add it, right, with the plus on the Y. Oh no, you want to add it to the iPad one.
What?
iPad.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
You gotta go there.
Okay, all right.
And then go add. And
Yeah.
is there like an audio browser?
Music source?
Yeah, music source. No.
Oh, hang on. Yeah,
Yeah.
never mind. All right.
Intermission.
Help if I typed it on the right keyboard.
That was silly.
Help if this keyboard was connected.
There we go. Very enthralling stream. There we go.
All right.
Load
Local
file.
file. Here we go.
There we go. Go browse.
Browse.
And it should be in the downloads. There it is. Open.
And then we want loop.
Nah, don't bother. It's 12 minutes long. Go. All right, just do that. Just save it. Go okay. And then play.
I think it's already playing. I might turn the volume down because it looks like it's peaking.
Can you hear it?
I can't hear it.
Let's see if we can hear it on the actual stream then. Because we haven't... Oh, we should be able to hear the output of OBS, but maybe we can't. Let's, wow, this is way behind.
Is it?
Yeah. See how far... Oh, there it is. It's there. Oh, no, there it is. All right, we'll be back right after this.
Brief intermission.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Did it stop the music?
I hope so.
We'll find out. When it pops up on here, I'll check because we don't really have an off-air stream.
You've got a little something going on in your stash.
Do I?
Wow. Saving it for later.
That's me.
The soup catcher.
Oh, that's gone. Excellent. Okay. We're back. We've been to the loo, the bathroom.
They needed that update.
They did.
They needed that update. What did you do in there?
Fed the duck, who's now squirming, scratching, and yeah. Anyway, we're back. Simon did some pretty pictures of his intermission.
Well, I wouldn't call it a pretty picture, but
it's a little bit pretty.
Well,
and yeah. So the inspiration for my little intermission thing, because we were talking about it during the intermission, is Ping Island from Steve Zissou and the Life Aquatic.
oh, all right.
Yeah, so it was meant to be quite minimalist, and silly, because it is.
I can hear it. It had some Wes Anderson about it.
Yeah, it did. All right, where were we at? So we were kind of halfway through our big discussion in a lot of ways, and we were talking about, how our week has been how our week has been going, and kind of rolling that into our proficiency conversation and balance between work and paid work and what we're trying to do with this work, this artistic work, whatever you want to call it, this new idea. And I think we kind of got a lot of the way through it, because what we wanted to talk about in our big discussion this week was the goal setting, accountability, proficiency, procrastination, and balance. And we've really talked about a lot of those things already to a degree. I think the only thing we haven't really talked about is like solid goal setting and accountability.
Well, I think accountability is kind of built into this.
Yeah.
Right. Is really the whole reason that we're doing this, is to force ourselves to do it.
Yeah.
Because if we've got to provide an update every week,
we've got to do something.
You're going to have something. The pressure's on to have something to update about.
Yeah, and we do have and they also kind of help drive our goals as well, because we have to kind of complete goals as we start to talk about various things. Like the big one, I guess, this week that has been a discussion point, goal-wise, is that to claim our name on Spotify, we have to release something. We have to we have to release something to be able to claim whatever it is. And so kind of part of that was doing this cover the other day that didn't quite work out. We wanted to have a piece of music, that could work as that first inverted commas release, so that Spotify could see that we were taking it seriously, and we haven't done that yet. So
Nope.
We will.
Yeah, it's a matter of time.
Yeah, it is a matter of
It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not concerned.
No, neither am I. And kind of as we do goals, as we complete goals and reach goals, we are kind of, able to kind of look back and whatever. Like the accountability thing, I think is fine, to be honest. Like I think we have good practices in that respect already. I think the procrastination we had around this stream and around doing the thing on Monday, certainly having to do this every week is it has certainly helped kind of engage me a bit more, and so goals and things are getting done quicker than I'd say would normally happen for me, when I'm self-motivated,
Sure.
Because ultimately, like, one of the big goals that we're working towards is releasing the first track, whichever one that is going to be. I can't remember which one it is. Third Kind, or
I don't know.
What was the other one? Oh, Not So Nostalgic.
Is that a working title, or is that the title?
That's the title. You don't like it?
How married to it are we?
Very married.
Okay.
I don't know. I like it.
All right.
Why don't you like it?
I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
You say. One of your big things is that names don't matter. That's
well, that's not true. I would say the whole thing doesn't matter.
Wow.
Don't stop at just the name.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. It's not that I hate it.
Yeah. Mm.
It's that it feels more like a working title to me than the title of a track, which is it doesn't matter. Like
It doesn't matter.
I don't have a
I just like it because it's a not real word.
yeah.
You know.
I think people are gonna look at it and go, "What Nosferatu?" Like they're not gonna know what to make of it for a minute, and that's cool. It's fine. Doesn't matter.
No, I think that's fine. We can format it in such a way that they'll pick out the words. Because it's one word at the moment, not so nostalgic.
Yeah, but why not just call it nostalgic?
No, I like the so. It's nice. It kind of plays off the nostalgic part as well, not so nostalgic.
But you're doing it twice. You've got so it's like a stutter.
Not nostalgic. It's rhythmic.
Anyway,
You know, we're arguing.
This is the whole Sayedi thing all over. So Josh saw me out walking the other day, and he sends this photo zoomed in.
Oh, Sim Yeti.
Like 1,000,000% zoomed in.
And because it was a nighttime iPhone, it tried to do the long exposure thing.
And so of course I look like.
And no, well, not just that. You're missing your complete top half is a blur. It's totally a abominable snowman, Bigfoot kind of vibe.
But this is the thing. So he sends me a text message saying Sayedi.
Sim Yeti.
Sim Yeti.
There you go.
Some portmanteau of Simon and Yeti when abominable Simon was right there. Just totally missed.
Well, you know, like I said,
this feels the same. Not so nostalgic feels to me like Sim Yeti.
Yeah, it's
when nostalgic is right there.
If a better name shakes out as we progress through the release schedule, through releasing, which we haven't
even started.
We haven't hit that beginning of the first 8-week cycle yet. Because one of the things goal-wise, if we're talking about goals, is required to begin the 8-week cycle is a finished track. Like we're not, you can argue that the 8-week cycle, it's an 8-week release cycle. It's not an 8-week creation cycle.
Yeah.
It's probably a 16-week creation cycle at the moment, though I would hope it's a bit shorter. It's we would like to get ahead of the curve.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, like if you look at the actual data that we've got, it's like these songs have been sitting almost finished
for a long time. Yeah,
well over 16 weeks.
Yeah, we haven't listened. We haven't worked on them. Well, that's not true. We've worked on some of them for longer than that. But yeah, these are things that we need to work out. Speed is a core component of what we're talking about doing. We can't sit on these tracks for half a year. They need to be done quickly. They need to be done well, and they need to be finished. That's this thing that we've been talking about a lot about all your favorite tracks. They have one thing in common, and it's that they were released, and it's a kind of a really cool little phrase that who said that? Was it Matt?
I don't know. Probably.
It sounds like a Matt thing.
Something he was talking about butterfly nets and who knows.
Catching butterflies.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Though, even that is a question now. Like there was discussion out in the music press about I've totally blanked on the name of it now. Bear with me one sec.
You'll get it. I believe in you.
Let me just pull up Pitchfork. I was reading the review for it, and it was one of these ones where it's like, this sounds like a really cool album, but it's not. It's intentionally not been released on Spotify. So it's like, well, am I going to go out of my way to find a way to listen to this thing? Probably not.
This is the problem with Spotify in a way, because it's like they kind of corner the market in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But this person whose name and album is currently escaping me, very compelling. Hang on, here we go. Here we bloody go. Watch me not be able to find it now.
This is very compelling content.
Need to bring the intermission shit back.
The guy. That's true.
Here we go. Diamond Jubilee by Cindy Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Best new album on Pitchfork a couple weeks ago. And it just doesn't. You just can't find it. It's intentionally. So here we go. Aside from its demanding length, there's the question of how to hear it. As of this writing, the only officially sanctioned methods are to download WAV files from a GeoCities website.
Other Lives did that for their second album.
Who did?
Other Lives is the name of the band.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd like them.
Would I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you the first record.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do that.
It's kind of like weird, like sci-fi country vibes. This is the kind of music. What, sci-fi orchestral country. I don't know if that's...
Sci-fi orchestral country.
Yeah.
I'm listening now.
Yeah, it's good. I
Okay.
think you'd like it. But that I remember, because I purchased the second album, because I really liked the first album. I purchased, they did a similar thing where they pre-released on their own platform for like the first 6 months or whatever, and only released it, and you could only download it, the WAVs from them directly. I thought, I'm a big kind of proponent of Bandcamp. I really like Bandcamp. I love how Bandcamp works. Obviously, if you're really good fans, you can kind of direct them there to kind of support you. Obviously, people can, Other Lives is all on Spotify as well, but they weren't at the time. This was a while ago. This was before Spotify was ubiquitous. And so kind of the Bandcamp model is really quite good, because that 9/10 of every dollar that gets spent on that platform goes to the artist, and I think that's super, super important for sustainability of...
Yeah, Bandcamp's the best.
Yeah. Sustainability of artistic practice in individuals. So yeah, they did that, and I remember there was a problem with it, and I couldn't download it, and I messaged them, and it was like, we don't do any other thing, and you're just going to have to try again. And I think it ended up being some weird web browser, like it worked in Safari or whatever. They hadn't checked this distribution thing, this DRM thing that they had going on. It was a bit annoying, but at the same time, I knew that my money had gone directly to the artist, and I think that was kind of valuable, Yeah, so I think something just came to me just then. Like we were talking about, we're talking about goal setting and accountability. Like I think maybe part of this stream should be, what do we intend to achieve before we stream again next week? Like what do we want to get to? What do we want to do?
What do we want to do? Well, it's a good question. I mean, as we were talking about earlier, like there's a to-do list that is enormous. And even then, it doesn't like populating the to-do list with more stuff could be its own to-do list.
Well,
there's that much.
No, but I mean, it should be taking stuff off. You know what I mean? Like there's things like we can talk about.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like you and I dipped our toes earlier in the week into figuring out what it means to create music together.
Yeah,
and we found that there are massive holes.
Correct.
So I think that means that we probably need to do more.
Do we need someone to moderate us that isn't Matt?
No.
What do you think? We should figure it out ourselves.
I think we should put our big boy pants on and figure out how to not shit the bed.
Yeah, okay, I'm down with that.
But that's effectively what it comes down to. Is we got to get in there, spend more time on it, time box it.
Mm-hmm. Which is what we did, to be fair.
We did time box it, and I think that was a good outcome. It was good to get to the end of the 2 hours and be like,
we fucked it.
That wasn't it.
Yeah.
It's a kind of like a scientific process, right? Like you've got to get in there, and a failure is still a data point that tells you what not to do, right?
If it's in that same stream, because we've talked about on this stream today about the importance of seeing the failures, do we want to try, are we going to be trying to get this up on the stream this week or next week? Are we going to try and get one of these up?
I think look, as much as I want to live by that philosophy, I think that at the moment it's still a bit fraught.
Yep.
Because it's like it is very bad.
Yeah.
It is like these people do not know what they're doing.
Which we don't.
Well, it's about stuff that we should know
That's true.
what we're doing. This is basic chemistry stuff. Like
Yeah.
we don't have. It's not. It
Not
hasn't.
clicking.
It hasn't gelled there.
Yeah.
And we know that it will because we've done it in other disciplines. It's just music,
Yeah.
that we haven't figured out
How to kind of bounce
how
off
to
each other.
communicate musically yet.
Well, yeah, all right. Well, like I think we're intending to do 2 more this week, like Thursday and Friday,
So let's do that. Let's spend
Let's
some
do that.
time.
and then we can try and do one.
And
Even
genuinely, I think if that's all we did before next week, I'd still consider that a win. Because we are in this phase of like.
I've gone one step further, and I've said finish and release a cover before the next one. But I think, do you think that's too much?
No, I don't think that's too much, provided we can get one of those to work.
Yeah.
Like if either one of those works on Thursday or Friday, great, done.
And we'll
Like-
capture it off the stream, and if we think it's good enough, we'll put it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of like beyond just a very basic mix. I don't think it needs anything post production wise.
Yeah, I mix as I go anyway, so it's fine.
La di da.
Maybe that's part of my problem. I don't really. I balance as I go. I don't really mix.
Okay.
But I think it being raw is fine. It'll, it's likely that it'll get mixed in kind of.
I think I definitely need to be more involved because I was too comfortable just taking a back seat and thinking like Josh knows what he's doing.
Well,
Josh can do the things. Josh can make the sounds.
That's what I was reflecting on before we went to the intermission and kind of eluded my brain for a second there. Is like, let's reflect on the process that we did. We kind of went in there with an idea to cover a particular song, and we did a bit of a design kind of process ahead of time, and then we got in there and like I did things, and you kind of chimed in from time to time, but I felt like it needed to be a bit more like this,
Yeah.
and less like
I was taking the back seat big time.
mad backseat energy.
Pillow princess over here. That's me.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there reading my book for most of it. It's a great read. Alex Ross knows what he's doing.
And I think that certainly, like, I kind of go down rabbit holes quite easily, and I think that's where me and Matt work quite well, is because there's always this kind of when we're talking about accountability, which kind of brings us back around. He keeps me accountable in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think the same with him and me, back the other way.
All right.
Yeah, so I think that was definitely one thing. But I think the actual, like, the tools were fine, but I think we had a bit of a chat about having too many tools. Do you feel like there was a bit of
Absolutely. I think we really need to strip it back and just pick, like,
3 things?
you've got 3 instruments, and that's it. No, like, oh, well, I'm going to run this through these weird things and whatever. Like, that can't be there. It needs to...
That wasn't what was holding me up, though. I think musically, that's not what was holding me up.
Okay, what was holding you up?
I don't think I had a conception of what this cover might sound like to me. I talked about doing a cover, like I've done a couple of covers before, but the only real successful one was a Julia Jacqueline cover that I really like my interpretation of. And it's relatively different from the original.
As good covers should be. I think that's part of what makes a good cover.
Yeah, it was voice and piano only, and it, it was kind of one of those things that you kind of have to live perform because it's got lots of kind of like pushing and pulling in the tempos, and you can't really do that in a producery sense. It's more of a troubadourial way, a performancey way of doing it. And the difference between that and what we were doing the other day was we kind of came at it from a block perspective, and
it felt immediately, and I pulled you up on it at the time, is immediately it felt like trying to recreate it, which is not a vibe.
No.
It felt like a real problem out of the gate. Like we are trying to recreate this thing that doesn't like.
But I think that particular impulse came from the fact that I've been away from the tools for as long as I have, Not so much music in general. It's just actually sitting down and actually doing it. I've been kind of backseat driving a lot. in the last 2 years.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, like I don't know that we necessarily need to reflect on it in any more granular than that, because currently we have one data point.
Yeah, we need to do it again.
Yeah,
totes fine.
We need to get more data before we start drawing too many conclusions about what's working or what's not working or
sounds good.
What's mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, I liked, just as a final comment, even though it was a failure, I kind of liked the little bits and pieces that came out of it. Like some of the musical components I found kind of cool.
And it was fun. It was fun to be in the room making stuff.
Yeah.
So, on that level, it was a success.
Mm-hmm.
On every other level, it wasn't. But, that still counts. It still counts for something.
Well,
it was still nice.
It was.
To be in the room, lights down low, hearing some cool stuff come out of some speakers. That's enough. That can be enough.
Yeah. I think, so going back to what we were talking about, which was the goals for the week, the finishing and releasing a cover, that solves a few of the things on the to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And then because we'll capture it as we're doing it anyway, streaming the result of that, I think is worthwhile as well.
Yeah.
Putting it out there.
Sure.
We'll just play it in. It won't be live.
Yeah, so it won't be a live stream, but it'll
as
still
live.
Be, yeah.
As live.
As live.
Oh, that's a genuine broadcast term right there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So produced as if it is live, even though it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Safety net.
Yeah.
Obviously we're going to keep working on the to-do list. This will improve. As you can see, it's it's a bit brighter this week because we felt it was a bit dark last week.
Probably could stand to be a little brighter still.
Yeah, maybe. I'll have a look at it. The exposure's in the right place, at least.
Got to try some different LUTs.
We got to try some different LUTs. We've got to get a lot of the web stuff up. That's kind of...
Oh, yeah, the web stuff, there's nothing. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
But again, this is one of these things where it's like, on the to-do list, it just says, website.
Well, yeah, I think it's just about altering this kind of splash page we've got and getting the links to external stuff up there, and then...
Yeah.
Because
but again, I opened up the splash page thing that I'd kind of half built however long ago it was, months ago, and looked at it and was like, oh, this is not ready for prime time whatsoever, like not even close. So I've got to...
What would you do this to me all the time, so I'm going to do it back to you. What would a good enough version look like?
Yeah, it's still about 2 hours out.
Okay.
And I have not had the 2 hours to throw at it.
Fair.
That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's other things that we want to do, like the Patreon stuff I've got here about making
Yeah, again, I'm not too worried about Patreon stuff, because I think that when we're talking about premature optimization, that to me feels like that.
We'll get to it.
We are not ready.
We have no audience, so why do we need Patreon?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the audience building stuff is way more important. And to be fair, to get people to look at a stream, I don't think is necessarily that difficult. In fact, I'm finding it really heartening to be able to look at the numbers in front of me here and just see zeros.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually really great, I think, as a starting point. That I was a little bit worried that we'd hit play on the streams, and people would just naturally find it through browsing services like Twitch or YouTube or Kick or whatever
that we're streaming. Yeah.
Because if that was a genuine way to build an audience, that you just you put it there, you build it and they will come, sort of thing. That's a very scattershot kind of approach, and that's fine, but it also introduces a lot of noise into the signal. Whereas I think this is really heartening to know that, okay, well, it's if we just hit stream, it basically stays at zero. Means that it's much more reliant on the discovery platforms to point people toward the streams. So telling people about it in relevant communities on Reddit, making posts to Instagram to say that we'll be streaming, these platforms that actively show things to new people and understand their likes and dislikes and whatever, because it breaks them down into communities in a more granular way, is is awesome. It means that we can immediately be pointing people, like it's up to us to point our thing to who we feel like it's relevant.
Yeah.
So once it gives us it's heartening to me because it gives us a very straightforward way to building a community, because it's like once the product we feel like is good enough, then we can point and then it will build and the platforms can fill in that little last part of the circle. Like if the platform is doing the whole thing, it takes a really critical element of control out of our hands. And I mean, having that I think is going to be a really useful thing.
Well, it gives us redundancy too. You know, being reliant on individual platforms is bad. In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
like
if distributing that work is always a good thing.
You know, like something could happen to YouTube. Well, something could happen. YouTube changes tomorrow, and if our audience is only on YouTube, suddenly we have stitched ourselves up. There's there's no way of fixing that. Whereas if we have all these other platforms going at the same time, you know, sure, it'll be a hit. It might even be our biggest audience component on that platform, but at least they'd have somewhere else to go, you know.
Yeah, being platform agnostic is a really, really powerful thing, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's move on. I think we've got some goals this week, and we're accountable. We've got some accountability built into what we want to do. Let's talk about the industry and culture kind of idea for this week.
Okay, I want to really smash through this very quickly.
Yeah. Because I don't know anything about this, so I might pretend I'll be the dum-dum that you're talking to.
Okay. So as usual, then, just business as usual.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a lot of stuff that we could speak about this week, but I wanted to, with the view of talking about proficiency, procrastination. I can see you're looking at my notes already.
I'm looking at the notes, and I have something to say.
So this week, with all those ideas in mind, I wanted to talk about this new release from Pearl Jam, their 12th studio album, which is a big number, called Dark Matter.
Yep.
Right. So this is being mindful that Pearl Jam have been going for 32 years.
Yep.
Right. They've been around for a long time.
I know of Pearl Jam.
You've heard of?
I've heard of Pearl Jam.
The Jam of Pearl. Have you heard about how they get their name, Pearl Jam? Ever hear about that?
Is it the tool that they use to open up scallops to get the pearl out? A Pearl Jam
to shuck.
Well, no, because they don't kill the scallops or whatever they use to grow the pearls. They use a little wedge to hold it open, and then they do the process of checking the pearl and putting it back in and seeding the pearl, and there you go.
Complex. There you go.
But there's a wedge that goes in, and my guess is that that's what they named their band after.
That's called a Pearl Jam.
Well, I'm going to call it a Pearl Jam.
Interesting.
That's where my mind went to. I don't know the story.
As
obviously.
far as I know, as far as I was told years ago, and I'm now realizing this could be a completely made up tale. One of them had an auntie named Pearl who used to make jam, and so it was literally Pearl Jam.
I'll fact check that while you
fact check. Look that shit up, Jamie.
How Pearl Jam.
Anyway, so Pearl Jam, mainstays of the Seattle grunge scene back in the day, still making albums, right? So what have we found?
Just keep going.
All
I'm
right.
not ready yet.
So this is album number 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really jumped out at me listening to it, like for a band that is moving into like legacy act territory, legacy artist territory, or is well and truly into legacy artist territory, really. I was kind of taken aback by the production choices and how modern it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much I don't really know how to describe the sound that I kept hearing, but it's kind of it's got this real wub-wubbiness.
Mm-hmm.
Wub-wubbiness, which I know from a technical perspective comes from side chaining something to something else. So you've got all the bass stuff going through like
a dance thing.
So everything dips out to let other components come forward.
Yeah.
And there's heaps of that all over this.
Mm-hmm. In a rhythmic way or a non-rhythmic way?
I'd say a rhythmic way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if I had to pick.
You had to pick.
Um,
It's so funny because if I had listened to this record, I would know exactly what you're talking about, and I haven't listened.
but you
to
haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Missed opportunity. You should.
Well, I will
go
listen to it. I've listened to other stuff this week.
But and so it was kind of because of that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit unsurprising to hear about this dude Andrew Watt being the producer for the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very plugged in contemporary producer.
Mm-hmm.
Won the 2021 Grammy Award for Producer of the Year, having worked with acts like Miley Cyrus, Post Malone, Justin Bieber, as well as
It's a cool looking dude.
plenty of older acts like
DJ Snake.
yeah, I mean his credits are ridiculous.
His credits are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like that.
And
just looking at them now,
and just being as prolific as this.
Avicii, Rita Ora. I've looked up this dude before. 5 Seconds of Summer, Cardi B, Post Malone. Wow.
So prolific.
Benny Blanco.
But also working with these older mainstay acts. So Rolling Stones, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
Iggy Pop, your mate.
My mate. What a guy.
And now Pearl Jam. So as far as I know, this is the first time they've worked together.
Mm-hmm.
But this is clearly someone who has modes of working, right?
Prolific is like an understatement for this dude. Hey?
Massive understatement.
2023, the number of songs that he has credits on is like 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine producing like a song a week?
Yeah.
For these
I can.
huge picky artists.
And that's the fucking goal.
Yeah.
You know? Yep.
Yeah.
Rad.
But clearly someone who has got it like finger on the pulse.
Absolutely.
And as far as I can tell, working with Pearl Jam was like a bit of a dream come true for this fella. So to be able to have like pushed the needle a little bit is a really cool outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool outcome. And so on Metacritic, this album is sitting at like critically acclaimed 81 sort of territory. Recorded over 3 weeks, mostly in Shangri-La. Rick Rubin's
yeah, that's what
studio.
I was smiling about at the start.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And recorded, like, produced by Andrew Watt in that studio, I guess.
I think there was some stuff that was happening in his home studio as well, is my understanding. I heard something, don't quote me here, but it was like 10 days in Shangri-La and then the rest of it home studio. So
drums.
And oh man, the drums on this album are pretty stunning.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of stuff that jumped out at me as being really interesting about this album. So not only was it like fast turnaround, and in fact, let's just stay on that for a minute. Like, so, Pearl Jam's 2020 ad in Gigaton, that took like 5 years to make.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at all these other albums. Who was it? Aerosmith or Guns N' Roses.
Mm.
They were sitting on an album for like 15 years or something crazy like that.
The Avalanches.
Well, I mean, the Avalanches is a little bit different. They had medical stuff going on.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know, I think there's a real trap that, when speaking of procrastination, that bands that know what they're doing, know how to make good
stuff,
like
quick.
good music that goes out into the world and has an impact. This is not new to them. They have this after they've found success, they take a little bit of time away and then they come back and they sit on stuff for years.
Yeah.
And the reason, what it comes down to really, is procrastination. There's no reason to do it. It doesn't make it measurably better to sit on something for that long. There might be a rare case where actively working on something for that long, like, I mean, Hallelujah is a good example, the Leonard Cohen track. That's one that, you know, he worked on and wrote a bajillion verses for and then culled it back down to the song that ended up coming out. But it's those things are so rare.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of one where there's an album. It might be an individual song, but I don't think there's an album that I've heard of anyone work on for like a decade and have it turn out good.
Yeah, I mean, nothing comes to mind. I mean, like we've talked about that Beyonce record, and she has said that she worked on that for 5 years. You know, that's a great record. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, this is where artistic process and all that stuff kind of is, you know, subjective, you know, because maybe a record that did take 10 years is a masterpiece. Well, I'm sure there's records out there that have taken that long.
Yeah. But the point, I'm talking about pure numbers game here, though, right? Like, I think it's rare.
Okay.
You know, it's there's an argument to be made that every debut album is a work of however long, of
well,
20 years of work.
Yeah, that, and also like just your general philosophy of how creativity is synthesized. Like, if I was gonna take your perspective on things, you would say that it's like every album has taken as long as the artist has been in existence.
Yeah,
because
sure.
It's all kind of
it's taken longer than that.
Yeah.
It's taken the thousands of years of
creative
musical
culture.
history. Yeah. You know, so sure, but if we take a more micro view than that,
actually, like saying, okay, I wrote the first word for this song or the first chord for this song that became this song in 2004, you know,
yeah,
and 20 years later I released the record that song was on, you know, irrespective of how many other records I released during that period of time.
My point is, there's a big process difference between the previous album
and the new one,
which I never heard about, I've never listened to, and this one, which had a lot of cut through, people are very excited about, is stark, you know, and it speaks to a sense of energy. And you can hear that. You can definitely hear.
Do you think that's the process, though, or do you think that's just coincidence, or something else?
I think there's something to be said for it being the part of the process being part of it. I can't tell you as a percentage whether it's 50% of it or 80% of it or whatever. But you know,
definitely the energy component. I certainly understand as that would contribute to that vibe.
Everything that I've heard about, like, you know, hearing the album. Hearing these things about the process and the excitement of that, like, is coming out of the band. This is not speaking to a band that is like is tired in the way that you might expect a band that's been together for 30 years to be tired. You know, Eddie Vedder's come out and said that this is their best work ever, and I'm kind of inclined to believe it. Like, I don't think that's empty marketing speak. The labels told me to talk it up and be a, you know, a mouthpiece for this. I kind of feel like he genuinely believes that. And
do you think it was the choice of producer?
I think that's massively part of it, because the fact that they've chosen to use the same producer for the whole album, I think speaks to that, and they've recorded it in one concise session over a 3-week period. I think that all speaks to this. That this is something that through whatever process, like they've captured like a real lightning in a bottle situation, and the album feels that way, which is kind of crazy, because all the songs feel pretty distinct. It's not like they've been ruminating on the same idea, and it's also it's also distinct in another way. Like, thinking about this idea of musicians talking about, like, proclaiming that something is their best work. There was a Foo Fighters track a couple of years back, or maybe a year ago or so, that Dave Grohl had written about his mother, and he was saying that was the best Foo Fighters song or whatever, and it wasn't. There's something in that as well that I think is in it's not just this is not an album that's just like all sentimentality or all introspection, or just they've managed to create something that is connected wider, in a way that their early albums were too. Which is, I just think as a legacy act, I think that becomes harder and harder to do, to break out of your, like, self-referential frame and make music that is sprawling and vast and connected culturally outside of your little musical scope, your personal scope.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, in the case of, I mean, the last album, and Dark Matter, was like
that's this
not Dark Matter, sorry, Gigaton.
Yeah.
It was another younger producer. Like, his name's Josh Evans. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I haven't been able to pull up much on.
And that was that for the whole album. He produced the whole album.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to tell because I haven't got the actual thing in front of me, but I'm trying to oh, there it is there. Atmos mixes. No, he did an Atmos mix for it, but
it looks like them. Yeah, it looks like it is just the one producer for the whole album. I mean, it seems to have similar reviews. Like, it seems to have. It's got an 80 on Metacritic.
He's not as young as the new fella though, by the looks of things. You know, like Andrew Watt's only 33. You know, so there's a very real different. You know, that's roughly our age.
Yeah.
You know, there's you know, there's a certain kind of connection to now that he brings to the project.
Yeah. Well, anyway, clearly I need to go back and listen to Gigaton as well.
Well, it'd be interesting just to see what the difference is. I mean, there's quite a significant period of time between this, and if given that Dark Matter was produced in a couple of weeks, like if that's the case, like the actual the story of it, then like suddenly there's this it's kind of an interesting story because where were they for the rest of the time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's totally possible that Pearl Jam have just been bouncing along as this musically inventive band the whole time, and they've just found themselves as a band that people want to hear the hits from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And
which a lot of those legacy acts kind of fall into the hole of having to do. Like, I mean, you mentioned the Foo Fighters. I was thinking about Radiohead, even though they're kind of still relatively relevant, I would argue. Some of these, like Iggy Pop, he's still playing those original tunes that everyone remembers from the Stooges. This is 50 years ago at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel a lot of sympathy for that sort of situation. Like, and
imagine playing the same hit for 50 years.
Yeah. And then as soon as you try to change it up, if you chuck a Bob Dylan and try to keep it fresh and change it up, then people go, well, what are you doing? You're just trolling us. You're not playing it the way that
Johnny Cash kind of do that anyway? Like he kind of dropped off the map for a bit, and then that's one of the Rick Rubin stories of him coming back and Rick Rubin kind of guiding him back into the limelight before he carked it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, it sounds like I need to listen to this record.
I think you do need to listen to this record. I need to give it another listen. I've only listened to it the once.
Yeah. It's a time investment listening to a record.
It is. not quite as much as a movie, but
yeah. It doesn't engage all your senses. So there's absolutely this, particularly from us ADHD inclined people, to kind of get distracted. In a film, you can kind of just sit down and not be distracted.
Fair.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to. I thought this was an interesting little foil to the idea of procrastination and proficiency.
Yeah.
I think it's in my experience anyway, has been rare to like find an artist that's 30 years into their career and still feels plugged in and fresh and making good decisions about who to work with and collaborate with, and just getting in there and getting the thing done. And
not being so insular, like bringing in someone new is that's a risk, but also look at the reward as a result.
Yeah.
It's an idea that I think about a lot, is this kind of real extreme trust that's required in the music industry in particular when it comes to producers and engineers and stuff. Like some people have managed to kind of get around that, but some people spend their whole careers trying to be trusted amongst multiple people, and it's a really, really hard part about particularly music, I guess it's probably the same about film and stuff too. Any of the collaborative art forms, Yeah.
But another way that this was interesting to me was, so this idea of like working with someone new, the investment to go like, well, let's make a whole album with someone new.
Mm-hmm.
And also like to be inventive, to step outside of genre and make a body of, like, to step outside of like
their genre.
The genre that you're pigeonholed into.
Yeah. Their legacy.
Yeah. It felt like a really interesting contrast, especially with the like speaking about someone like Taylor Swift last week. Who has worked with the same core collaborators for like the last 3 records or something. And so the contrast between like building this kind of trust with a group and continuing to work together, even if maybe it starts to feel less creatively fulfilling, versus constantly wanting to change it up and mix it up. And to me, this feels like a more creatively fulfilled album. Not that you can necessarily compare the two, but I wonder, if conversely, if we're talking about success, there's probably a way to read the situation that says, like, if Pearl Jam kept making, if they just made grungy, like Soundgarden-y, just riffing on these same ideas of that kind of Pearl Jam-y sound. Could they have like been more embedded with the fans that they have? There's a way to read it that could say, like, actually that could be a path to greater financial success than they might have had, because they could have perfected a formula. They could have found their way into a.
But I mean, like, they've been around long enough to have kind of like fleshed out their fan base in that way enough. You know what I mean? Like,
is it ever enough?
Depends on who you are.
Well, yeah.
For Taylor Swift, I wouldn't think that any amount of fans is enough for her. But I don't know, like, a lot of artists are happy with a listenership that's not popular, if that makes sense,
But yeah, anyway, the what was interesting to me was like it speaks to this kind of, you can kind of read between the lines as to what the goals might be. Obviously, this is all speculation, but when you see it's
maybe they only had 3 weeks.
It's telegraphing something. Well, I mean, I don't think that's true. They only had 3 weeks. I guess
maybe they had really busy lives.
Andrew Watt's probably busy enough that he probably only has 3 weeks.
That's
to be
true.
Fair.
I mean, you look at that and you go, okay, maybe if it was the producer was the kind of defining choice, maybe that's why they had to get it done in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
But if we're talking about 3 weeks production, that's very different to 3 weeks writing, production, and
my understanding
finishing.
It was the whole thing.
Okay,
was 3 weeks.
Wow.
I don't know how much writing would have, because presumably you can do a lot of the writing beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, you can, Oh, like, so after successful working with blah, 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 the band's first recording sessions for the release took place in 2021 at Watt's home studio. So there was a bit of stuff that was happening before that, and then the majority of it was recorded in 3 weeks. Yeah. So demoing, we've talked about this concept, which is why what we do in, for F&L is effectively what probably they did in 2021, and then just let it sit there for ages,
Percolate.
You could argue, and then the 3 weeks came around because that's when Andrew Watt was available again. But you look at his credits and you go, okay, well, like there's I can get behind the idea that he only had time then. He was pre-booked. Cool. Well, I got one. Like, do you have any other kind of comments?
No, that was all. I just felt like it slotted in nicely with these ideas that we're talking about like proficiency and what it means to continue to build proficiency. Yeah. To procrastinate and not like these people could just sit on the empire that they've made and tour once a year.
Yep. And be fine.
And play the hits.
Yeah.
And be totally fine.
Yeah.
But making the active choice not to do that, to keep developing as an artist, to keep a career rolling, I think it's
honourable.
It is honourable, and it's something that is it's not always easy to celebrate when the media cycle wants to promote flavour of the monthiness. So it's great. I feel.
Well, I will listen to it this week and report back.
Yeah, please do. I'm keen to hear what you think of it.
All right, well, the last little bit of nugget based on this conversation is what we started with, which is where the name came from. So, according to the Wikipedia page, in an early promotional interview, Vedder said the name Pearl Jam was a reference to his great-grandmother Pearl, who was married to a Native American and had a special recipe for peyote-laced jam.
Oh, there you go. It's actually a better story than I heard.
Well, calm down. In 2006, in the Rolling Stones, Vader admitted that the story was total bullshit, but added that he did have a great-grandmother named Pearl. Ahmet and McCready explained that Ahmet came up with Pearl, and that the band later settled on Pearl Jam after attending a Neil Young concert, in which he extended his songs as improvisations of 15 to 20 minutes in length jams. So
what year did he say that it was bullshit?
It's like 1990s sometime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, maybe I'm wrong.
I thought you
That's when
said
they started.
2006.
No, 2006 was when they kind of said that's a bullshit story.
That's what I just asked.
Oh,
When did
sorry.
you say it was bullshit?
Yeah, but I can't tell you when they.
Yeah, okay. Well, I would have heard the story before 2006.
Yeah.
I would have heard it in 2004-ish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's interesting. It's a great story.
Year 8, Kira High School.
Meta narrative is important. Like, I think these kind of.
Absolutely, it is. And of course, in those days,
Yeah.
a lot of that came through magazines and these interviews. Magazines like Ray Gun and all these incredible NME. These
Enemy, what a great name.
these.
I mean, like NME, and I just love that.
Yeah.
It's enemy. Yeah,
That's great.
So good.
And speaks to the real divide between the critical culture and the art making culture.
Yeah.
They are the enemy.
Exactly. Cool, man. All right. Well, I think that's it
All
for
right.
today. I think that's it. So
That was a long one.
no, it wasn't. I mean, we had a break. So anyway, thanks for joining us again. You can, if you are watching and you want to keep following us, this is going to get more and more better as we get into it, and there'll be more and more interesting content. So jump on and follow us on the various platforms that you may have come across us on. We're _music on everything. So jump on and we'll.
I think we might be frights.music on Instagram.
Is it? Oh, okay. So, well, Frights something music. Insert symbol of some sort.
Symbol of your choosing.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be streaming again next week, and there'll be another stream hopefully in between, which will be a bit of music for you, and that will become increasingly more the case, rather than us two white boys sitting here talking shit. Yep. So thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Evening's